Welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson, and I'm happy to be with Chad Wohlers, checking out one of the nicest privately owned tanks I've ever seen. Chad, thank you so much for having me over to your house to check out your tank.
Thank you, Scott. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Your tank is amazing. Why don't we get started and I'll have you talk to us about your tank.
Sounds good. I have been in the industry for about 18 years now. As a hobbyist for 19. Back when I was at the CSU dorms, I started up a little nano tank and threw a little live rock in there and watched all the critters, and I was hooked. And from that day to this day, I have built this, and this is my pride and joy right here. So I'm running Orfix, and the reason being is because a buddy of mine, Joe Savoy, was in the industry a few years back, and we'd go and help him out at his booth, and he'd come and help us out at my booth. And ultimately those Orfix really appealed to me. I like the spread. So I slapped those on my tank and had great results. To this day, they have lost some controllability, but they are getting old, to their defense. And I am planning now to put some AP700s on there with some A360s as well. I have a pretty low flow for my mixed reef. I am running Aquametic EcoDrift 4.1 and an 8.1. I could go bigger, but I choose to stick to pretty low flow for the fact that my aquarium, being a mixed reef, loves the low flow, and that's just what I'm gonna stick to. Underneath the tank, I'm running a Sump that I actually picked up from Orlando Salazar, my business partner over at Aquametic, and perfect for this tank. Inside is an Acone 1.5 by Aquametic, which has been running flawlessly and pulling out every bit of gunk that I put into this tank, and a pump, an older Aquametic pump that is bulletproof. I mean, it's just been working to this day without fail. Inside the Sump is just a section of it is my refugium, and it is powered by a H160 Kessel. I actually got that one as a prototype, and it has been working amazingly. I am still running it to this day, and it is doing its job. I do not like doing water changes with big old buckets. So prior to setting up this tank, I set up a semi-automated system where I run a siphon down into my basement into a drain, and as soon as it's drained, I can hit a button and bring up my fresh mixed water from a 55-gallon drum. In my basement, I have an Aquametic Reef Doser Evo 4, which is a dosing pump that I am dosing calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, fuel, and iodine. It is pumping all the way from my basement, all the way up into the tank regularly, and I attribute a lot of how my coral looks and its health to that dosing pump. So originally, when I set this tank up, I thought to myself, I am going to set up the most amazing tank with the most high-end corals, and I'm gonna blow people out of the water. People are gonna love my tank. But as I was adding corals to my tank, there are so many corals that are close to my heart that I just love so much. And ultimately, I built my reef tank from those corals. My thought pattern was that in the beginning, I would really go hard with coral and not pollute my tank with a bunch of fish. And to this day, I've kind of stuck with that, although I did just recently order a whole lot of fish. I only have 4 fish in this tank, and 2 of them are workers, the 2 tangs. I do have a snowflake clown, and he is actually one of the original ORA snowflakes that they were trying to advertise. In the beginning, they were giving them away at trade shows, and one of my buddies won this, actually a pair, And I held on to these 2 snowflakes for a while for my buddy. And the day before he came to come pick them up, one of the 2 jumped out of the tank, just like fish tend to do. And he took the other one. He wasn't too mad at me. And one day he decided that he needed to tear down his tank, called me up and said, "Hey, do you want that other snowflake?" And of course, knowing that I took care of him and he was one of the original ORA snowflakes, I now have him in my fish tank. I'd like to show you guys some of my absolute favorite corals first. Whether or not they're high end or low end, it doesn't matter to me. They are my favorite, and here's why. Out of all the coral in my tank, there are 2 that I particularly love. These 2 that you're looking at are sarcophagans. One of them on the right, I just got from Australia. It's a devil's hand leather or sarcophagan. It's kind of hard to say what it is, but it's awesome. And then the one on the left there is a kind of a toadstool, long tentacle, green sarcophagan. And my other favorite coral is Paligrandis. I love Paligrandis. I could do a whole tank of Paligrandis. So the Paligrandis, these brown ones, they are brown, but they are a little bit different than even other brown Paligrandis that you would see, and most people do not like brown, but these ones are special. And now the ones in the top right, they kind of have a fun story. Jake Adams was holding his corals while he was moving around the world at Aquamedic Live at our facility. And he told me that he would not sell or trade any of his Paligrandis. He loved them too much and they were his. So one day, one of the Paligrandis started growing onto the egg crate underneath and split right off. And I figured that one was fair game. So I now have it in my tank. Jake, I don't know if you're watching, but that is from your actual colony. Bounces everywhere. Everybody has bounces. But you know what? I found bounces on my own before they were a big deal. In fact, Orlando Salazar and I went to Max Marine Aquarium Expo, and somebody had a little piece of it there, and we were wondering what this little thing could be. It was so foreign and alien to us, and ever since then I was thinking to myself, I have got to have one of these bounce corals. And sure enough, eventually I was able to get that one right in the center there. And it's hard to see, but the top one over there to the right, I just picked up about 2 or 3 days ago from Reef Koi, Chris Koi. And it is a new red storm bounce. This is going to probably hit the market hard. I'm proud to have one of the first, and it is cool. Looks like it has little kind of red mace looking balls all over it. The top left there is an interstellar I got as a tiny little baby from Scott Anderson of Mile High Reefers, and that thing is rocking. It is starting to quote unquote bounce out with its little white kind of pieces on it. People are starting to call just about everything bounces, but it is looking really, really good. The original Reef Koi bounce, it's been changed by many people to different names, sun-kissed or whatever it is, but it is the original Koi bounce. I did get it from Reef Koi himself, and in fact just recently got him back one. He had sold all of them out, and I am proud to say that he got one of mine that he gave me back in his collection. So St. Thomas mushrooms, they've been around for a long time, but it wasn't until bounces came about that people were paying big money for them. They're Caribbean coral and always been one of my favorite. This is my bubblegum monster, probably the biggest coral in my tank. And funny thing is it actually started out with what some people call a DNA frag. So this one was about to be thrown in the trash at work. It was completely dead except for one itty bitty sliver of color left in it. And I go, you know, I'm just gonna bring it home. If it doesn't make it, well, it was going in the trash anyway. If it makes it, then great, I got a bubblegum monster. And ultimately my tank loved it, and it loved my tank. This is my Heterodactyla hemprichi, which doesn't have a common name that I'm aware of, so I'm gonna call it my grape anemone. It originates from Australia. I did not get it from collectors in Australia. I actually got it from a store. I saw it and thought, I've never seen anything like it. I gotta have it. And it is cool. It has just recently been splitting like crazy. So this is my Montipora stellata. Not an uncommon coral, but seems like everybody really likes it and wants some. When I first got this was actually from John Garnett, and he didn't know what it was, and nor did I for many years. And it started growing really big in my tank, and nobody really wanted or needed any of it, so I just kept letting it grow and grow and grow. And as far as I know, I've got one of the biggest colonies of it that really anybody's got in a home tank. I love echinatas. Echinatas, they are one of my favorites. They're a little bit of an aggressive coral. They send out sweepers, but you know what? The corals around them don't seem to mind so much. They haven't been hurt by them, and it might just be my flow. So King Midas Zoanthids, pretty common now. Back when I started getting into the industry, I saw a picture of these online and I had to have it. I couldn't believe that there was a yellow coral out there. So I run a lot of white light on my tank. Most people run theirs, or I shouldn't say most, a lot of people run theirs completely blue. And this coral super pops orange or gold under blue. Well, when this coral came into Aquametic Live, Scott saw that it had some nasty bag burn. I wasn't there at the time, and he decided to put it under the knife, cut that dead part off of it, and save the rest of it. Called me up, said, hey, I've got a piece of gold hammer. Do you want some? And it's a wall. I said, well, you know, not the coral that I'm particularly after, but after I saw it, I had to have it. It was amazing, and it looked perfect for my tank. I had a spot for it. So this is my Yaya mensis. Some people confuse it with frog spawn, but this one actually came from Tropical Pet Oasis, Tommy Cho. So I've got some watermelon zoas right here. And actually this place was completely void and empty until about yesterday, when I knew that Scott was gonna come do a video of my tank. What happened was I had a war coral down here. He fell out and of that spot, and he had been growing there for many years. So there was no way for me to reach my corner in the back furthest point of my tank, pick him up and put him back. So I thought, hey, we've got Aquametic Live, a whole facility full of corals. I bet I could find something that will handle low light and fit perfectly in that area, and I did. So this is my gold frog spawn. I've never seen a gold frog spawn before. I got this from the Fish Crew, thanks to Matt Kurtz. This is one of the coolest corals that I have in here. I've never seen one before, and I am fortunate enough to have one in my tank. Blue clove polyps have a terrible reputation. Everybody avoids them like the plague. Well, they are in my tank. I am not getting rid of them. I embrace them now. They are everywhere in my tank, and they have yet to kill or smother another coral in my tank. If I have a coral that does have partial die-off, yeah, they will go to that area and actually grow on it. And in fact, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, they do sexually reproduce and spread eggs all over the tank. I mean, my tank is just covered in white little specks, reseeding all of these blue clove polyps. And I have now decided, hey, they're way cooler than hair algae or some other algae growing on the tanks, and they do prevent any other algae growing because they are shading the rock itself. So I'm gonna embrace them. So I have embraced blue clove polyps throughout my aquarium, and wherever they wanna grow, great. Another great part of a blue clove polyp is that when I glue a new coral down, I have these ugly glue spots where I've put super glue gel, and they will actually grow on top of that super glue gel within a matter of weeks, and it looks like it has been growing there for years. I believe one of the biggest challenges of keeping an aquarium is actually a mixed reef. You've got your SPS, your LPS, and your softies all at war with each other. And understanding what each coral is capable of and what it'll do, what its growth patterns are like, is very important in setting up an aquarium like this. It's, in my opinion, not for the first aquarist, but a goal for myself and anybody else who wants to set up a mixed reef.
Thank you for watching my high reefers.
I think you got
That
it.
was a pretty good one.